It doesn't take an eagle-eyed viewer to know that I'm into Batman. Batman, Batman, Batman. There are any number of reasons I really like Batman, but a major component is his accessibility, which is to say, anyone could be I could be Batman. Many in comic book fandom have argued that Batman is the most powerful superhero in the DC universe. This despite the fact that he has no superpowers per se. He's just, well, a schmuck like the rest of us. Chuck Dixon, a longtime Batman writer, says that Batman is at heart a wish fulfillment character. And for me, well, yeah, I'm not interested in dressing up as a bat and fighting crime in the pale moonlight, but I suspect that the characteristics and attributes that make Batman such a formidable doer of deeds can likewise serve us in life, business, or, well, whatever challenges the universe sets before us. So with all of this in mind, let's take a look at what makes Batman such an amazing superhero, and then ask, if he's, well, no different from you or me, can we be like Batman? This'll be fun. What makes Batman Batman? Let's start with the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Bruce Wayne is rich. Like totally filthy rich. The kind of money he can bring to bear to solve a problem is astonishing. We all know he can develop some pretty exotic kick-ass gear with his bat suits, the Batmobile, the Batcave itself, and an endless array of gadgets, and the overall operating costs that come with maintaining this crime-fighting venture. It alone would cost tens of millions of dollars each year just to punch the clock. Then there's the fact that Bruce Wayne can spend less time worrying about the mundane day-to-day responsibilities of life and channel that bandwidth toward his crime-fighting enterprises. Alfred and the rest of his staff take care of the cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry, getting the oil changed in the Batmobile, and all that stuff. None of these things occupy a single brain cell in Batman's brain. Zero cognitive load. But here's the thing. Despite what Bruce Wayne told Barry Allen in the movie Justice League, the fact that he's rich is not a superpower. Sure, it enables him to do what he does, but it doesn't make him who he is. If one day Batman found himself destitute and left with nothing more than the clothes on his back, he would still be Batman. So what is it that really makes Batman who he is? Let's have a look. Expert combatant. It is precisely because Batman has no superpowers that he has had to compensate by mastering every fighting style there is, making him one of the most dangerous humans in the DC universe. What's more, he's also able to switch between these styles effortlessly, allowing him to adapt to different combat situations and opponents, whether they be common street thugs, trained assassins, or superhuman threats. This makes him not only a formidable opponent, but an unpredictable one as well. In the same vein, we have Batman's physical prowess. The man augments his superb fighting skills with incredible strength, reflexes, endurance, and agility, all brought about as a result of ceaseless and rigorous training. Contingency planning. Batman's entire costume, including his marvelously equipped utility belt, is a testament to his consideration, analysis, and forethought of every possible contingency. Contingency planning is all about anticipating and preparing for potential events or scenarios that could, if not addressed beforehand, get in the way of whatever we're trying to achieve. The idea is to create a plan of action to mitigate for the effects of possible twists and turns, thereby minimizing the potential damage. This allows Batman to plan strategically, yet react tactically. By this I mean he considers the problem strategically, interrogating the objective from every angle, then plans for every possible scenario and gathers the tools, resources, and skills that he'll need to be successful. However, as is often said, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, meaning despite all this planning, he needs to be able to react tactically in response to conditions on the ground. This lies at the heart of contingency planning. Contingency planning fueled by paranoia. Batman's devotion to contingency planning goes far beyond what even the most seasoned project manager would bring to the table. Batman's foresight is fueled by deep paranoia. Where others see security, he sees threats. This extends to the other superheroes as well. In the JLA Tower of Babel storyline, it is revealed that Batman has contingency plans in place to take out every member of the Justice League, just as a failsafe should any of them go rogue. It may sound strange to assert paranoia as a positive virtue, but that's exactly what it can be when properly channeled. In the words of Andy Grove, founder of Intel Corporation, only the paranoid survive. So committed was he to this precept that he titled his book, Only the Paranoid Survive: How to Exploit the Crisis Points That Challenge Every Company. Being forever on the lookout for threats and exploiting crisis points describes Batman's approach eloquently. Obsession. Batman demonstrates obsessive behaviors in just about every aspect of his life, including training, planning, and his hunger for justice. The whole archetype of his character is rooted in obsession, determined to wage his unchecked war on crime after watching his parents get gunned down in an alley. In the classic 4-part series, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, Batman's various obsessions can be seen in stark relief. In this storyline, Batman demonstrates extreme obsession as he's willing to go to any length to defeat not only the new criminal element stalking the streets of Gotham, but Superman himself. Like paranoia, it may be easy to write obsession off as a character flaw to be avoided, but in his book, Every Tool's a Hammer, Adam Savage says, "As a society, we have a very suspicious view of obsession. In youth, as well as in adults, it is often considered a vice, a burden, an affliction." He goes on to say that society seems to think that people who are obsessive about things, about anything really, are crazy or addicted or out of their minds. We can't even countenance the idea that someone could be obsessed with something and be of sound mind. He continues, "This is a shame, because when it comes to creativity, when it comes to making things, when it comes to success at anything, obsession is often the seed of real excellence." Savage believes that obsession can be a driving force for success in many areas of life. Obsessed people have a unique ability to focus on a challenge and work it tirelessly until a solution is found. In this way, Adam Savage is perfectly describing what Gotham City sees in Batman, the crazed lunatic, as well as the superpower his obsession gives him. Grit and resilience. Batman gets his ass handed to him a lot. I mean, a lot. He is brutally savaged by the mutant leader, almost killed by the Predator, outsmarted by Hush, pummeled something ferocious by Deathstroke, has his back broken by Bane, is tortured, drugged, and broken by Deacon Blackfire, and has his fortune stolen and his reputation ruined by the Joker. In short, this man has seen some bad days. And yet he never lets up, never yields, never lets go of his vision for a safer Gotham City. This is grit and resilience to a fantastic degree. According to Angela Duckworth, grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Grit is about having what some researchers call an ultimate concern, a goal you care about so much that it organizes and gives meaning to almost everything you do. And grit is holding steadfast to the goal, even when you fall down, even when you screw up, even when progress toward that goal is halted or slow. A goal you care about so much that it organizes and gives meaning to almost everything you do. Batman's grit and determination does exactly this, organizes and gives meaning to everything he does. Intelligence. Batman has a vast knowledge of a wide variety of fields, including science, psychology, technology, criminology, and detective work, just to name a few. If he's not busy chasing down criminals or training, he's probably studying, reading, and analyzing everything he can get his hands on. If knowledge is power, then this alone makes Batman a force to be reckoned with. His superior intelligence also allows him to practice tactical improvisation in the field, thinking fast on his feet and adjusting his tactics as needed to outsmart his enemies. Now, one thing that's perhaps unexpected about Batman's intelligence is that he is not a specialist, he is a generalist. In his book, Range: Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World, David Epstein argues that in most disciplines, especially those that are vague, complex, and unpredictable, generalists, not specialists, are better able to excel in their domains. Generalists are more creative, agile, and better able to make connections that specialists struggle to see. This allows them to develop creative solutions to difficult, complex problems that confound others. This is how Batman works. While his general knowledge of any subject probably exceeds that of many specialists, he remains creative and agile when solving complex problems. Batman also has what would be referred to as a growth mindset. People with a growth mindset believe that their intelligence, skills, and abilities are not fixed traits, but rather something to be developed through hard work and dedication. They understand that failure is not a sign of incompetence, but rather a necessary part of the learning process. They use failures and mistakes as opportunities to learn and improve, rather than as reasons to give up or feel dejected. One area in which Batman deftly applies his generalized knowledge and growth mindset is in his detective work. Where others see a collection of random, disparate elements, Batman sees inconsistencies, relationships, and patterns. Add to this his obsessive persistence, and it's only a matter of time before he puts the pieces together and reconstructs the crime in high fidelity. This is important because, unlike many of his contemporaries' nemeses, Batman's foes tend to work in the shadows. The Joker, the Penguin, Scarecrow, the Riddler, all of these baddies operate more in the vein of traditional criminals and mob bosses lurking in the dark recesses of society, whereas villains such as Superman's Lex Luthor, Darkseid, Doomsday, and General Zod are big, bold, and in your face. This rogues gallery has no need to operate in the shadows, relying more on their strength and powers than their subtleties. Batman also has the ability to think like his enemies, something all good detectives can do, though Batman is rather superb at this given his, somewhat unhinged nature. In her book, Mastermind: How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes, psychologist Maria Konnikova discusses how the power of observation, mindfulness, logic, imagination, and thoughtful self-reflection, traits that Batman holds in spades, all combine to make for a formidable detective. Konnikova also asserts that each of us, with practice and keen self-awareness, can develop these skills to creatively tackle our own challenges. Indomitable will combined with unmatched discipline. Batman's unshakable willpower serves as the bedrock for his unwavering discipline, rivaling that of the Spartans, samurai, and Shaolin monks. This gives him, among other things, complete control over his mind and emotions, especially fear, even when under the influence of drugs or psychic attacks. What's more, he is constantly improving, always pushing himself harder and further. Study and practice are his mainstays. He is never content with his current state and always looking for anything that will give him an edge, no matter how slight it may be. Now, a little by way of definitions here. Willpower gives us the ability to deliberately and clinically control our thoughts and actions, especially when we might be tempted to think or act in a way that would work against our self-interests. We draw upon our willpower when we are faced with a challenge in the moment to do or not to do something right here, right now. By contrast, self-discipline involves adhering to a structured and consistently applied regimen to help us achieve our objectives. Discipline is more long-term, a level of self-mastery and development over time. In the case of Batman, his willpower and self-discipline work in concert, just as they can for us. In his book, The One Thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results, Gary Keller talks about the importance of staying laser-focused on the things, no, strike that, the one thing that matters most. Keller argues that by narrowing our focus and aligning our actions with our priorities, we can avoid the pitfalls that often result in mediocre outcomes. This is what Batman does. He pursues his one thing of justice and vengeance with a singular passion, all while bringing his indomitable willpower and unmatched discipline to the equation and using them to astonishing effect. In conclusion, this video essay set out to answer the question, can we be like Batman? And I think that based on the traits that we've explored, the answer is yes. Yes, we can be like Batman. But at this point, the question we should really be asking ourselves is, would we want to? Is this something we should really aspire to become? Looking at the character traits that converge to make Batman the man he is, one can be forgiven for calling time out and sort of reassessing our desire to be like this person. The simple truth of the matter is, despite all of his astonishing abilities and admirable objectives, to be sure, he's not the most stable dude you're ever likely to meet. Nevertheless, we shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot that we can learn from this, albeit fictional character. Things that could really bring true and awesome value to our own lives. And hey, if you're somebody who's already inclined toward a given degree of paranoia or obsessive behavior, and are willing to do what it takes to develop this level of grit, resilience, determination, and self-discipline, well, there are worse things you can do with your time. All right, there you go. Thanks for joining, and until we talk again, have a fantastic day. Hey, thanks a lot for joining, and a big shout out to my one and only YouTube member, Movin' Death. Beat that name, right? And my Patreon members, of whom there are none. So join us and let's have a ball together. We'll see you later. So many years ago, when my now adult niece was a little girl, she looked at my Batman ring and said, "Uncle Lon, why do you wear a Batman ring?" And I said, "Because I'm Batman." And her eyes went so wide. I mean, for a brief moment of my life, I felt like the coolest guy in the world. And it's all because I frickin' lied to my niece.